we also have a few of our other team members available for the Q&A section. So not our entire team on, but we will have Lubomir on. He's a winemaker that helped develop the product, and Lucan, who is part of the development team as well, will be available for the Q&A. We'll be going over that NuVerge introduction, Nextworld, and then NuTrax again, in order to really kind of streamline this particular part of it and get to the actual product. We're going to go over a few things really briefly. There is another webinar that was recorded previously, and I have a link that's going to be sent out. It's also on our website that goes over the Nextbot platform itself. But with that, we know that you guys need a little bit of that background. So again, Patrick Barber here, our product strategy owner for the CPG space, and myself. And with that, we wanted to really just kind of highlight some of the top things that really we understand the wine industry deals with. Obviously, this isn't all of them, but we wanted everybody to be aware of what we're really trying to do to be a differentiator in this marketplace and to really create a product that's going to change how you do business, not only with the core ERP, but also just as a standalone product. And we'll explain a little bit more about that later in the presentation about how you could have either option. So ultimately, how do you future-proof? You know, we're always dealing with the fact that products age. You know, what kind of platform is it built on? Is it going to be something I'm going to be seeing, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Am I on an aging platform? Those kinds of considerations are all part of the reason why we built this on the Nextworld platform or the Nextbot platform. Your team needs to be able to work from anywhere, anytime. What happens when you have a poor connection? You're in the cellar, as an example. A lot of products they don't do well when you even have a low connectivity, much less disconnected. We're going to talk about that as well. And then the last one is, ultimately, I want the right price for the software, right? I don't want to have a high level of integration costs. I don't want to have to worry about how I train my users. All those things come into play in the overall total cost of ownership. So we're going to discuss all of that and more today. So with that, real quickly about NuVerge, and I'll go and turn off my webcam just for the sake of bandwidth here. So ultimately, NuVerge was founded about 3 years ago by Bill Hilton and Mark Godey. I joined about a year ago now, and we've already started developing several solutions. What I want to highlight on this slide in particular, we're not going to go through everything here, is but we're a global company. We already have an entity now in Canada. We have an entity down in Australia and New Zealand, and we're building out 6 different industry solutions. Today, we're talking about our beverage wine solution, but we are looking at other spaces and building those out as well. So with that, go to the next slide. Here we go. The other thing that's very important to NuVerge, and one of the things that really brought me to NuVerge and also the extended Nextworld family, is the culture itself. We feel it's very important to have some core key culture elements that drive us forward. It's not just about the software. We enjoy building software, but ultimately, I like to look at a few of these items, and it's about our passion. One thing that, the reason why, Patrick's on board and myself, why we joined, is because we were passionate about building something from the ground up that was really going to solve for things that we couldn't solve for in the prior products we'd been exposed to. We'd implemented at several wineries in the past, and we've been involved in several projects, but we were always limited in some shape or form. And with this, it gave us a new way to look at this industry and really solve for what those items are. And you're going to actually see some big things today from Patrick where we feel other products just won't be able to touch in the future because we're solving for it in a different way and allowing you as the customer to ultimately be able to customize it as well without the technical debt that comes along with customizations. And we'll explain more about that as well. But ultimately, it's about bringing our passion. And for those that do know me, it's about having fun along the way. I do enjoy working closely with the team, and we have a lot of good times together. And that's really ultimately spurred on a lot of great ideas and pulling in the right people, from Lubomir being an actual winemaker to newer team members that are just out of college. We're able to get a lot of different perspectives from all walks of life to really make this the best product available. A little bit about Nextworld. Obviously, this is built on the Nextbot platform. And for those that aren't familiar with what that's really about, the Nextbot platform is what Nextworld built their ERP on. So before they got started in the ERP space, they really had to build the next generation platform. This started about 5 years ago. So if you look at this, kind of simple slide here, really we're dealing with the present day. And ultimately, we're no longer having to worry about whether or not we're trying to put a product like JD Edwards in the cloud, or worrying about whether or not something is true SaaS or anything. We are already at that SaaS layer, but the The difference is, what if I want to do something with that platform? What if I want to build something else? And we're going to talk about our NuVerge promise at the very end of this presentation and how you can actually take advantage of this platform. So not only are you getting a great product from a wine solution standpoint, but you're also getting an entire platform. And then the question at the very end of this slide is, what's next? And that's kind of the point of this platform. The Nextbot platform was originally designed against a certain type of database. As an example, it was actually started with MongoDB. So for those that are very technical, it was this type of database. They've now changed that to be Postgres. And the reason why I bring that example up is that they've changed that without the customer having to worry about that technical side, whether or not disaster recovery is being handled properly, whether or not the technology will be able to be future-proof. The idea behind the Nextbot platform is that they can continue to adopt the latest technologies in this platform as you move forward for the decades to come. And I do mean decades. The reality is we really wanted to build this for the next 50 years plus. And the idea is you had to build something that allowed you to continue to add and replace things in the back end without impacting the customers and allowing them to continue to take the latest and greatest technologies. And that's what's built around the Nextbot platform. Again, there's a whole presentation just on Nextbot, so I won't spend much more time on that. But built on top of Nextbot is the entire ERP platform. And you'll see that from the financials, the procurement, sales, supply chain, manufacturing, all these are modules that are delivered by Nextworld. We could have entire sessions on each one of these. In fact, deep dives could go for days on each of the product lines here. What we're going to concentrate today on is that one of those orange items up in the corner there called agriculture. Specifically, we have the sub-vertical of wine. When you're seeing everything today, note that there's other industries, obviously, this can apply to, and I have another slide that describes all the areas that this solution applies to, but we will be more specific to wine today in our examples. So these are developed by NuTrax here. So anything in the orange is developed as an industry solution by NuVerge. All right. ERP redefined. Again, ultimately, the word customization at the very top of the screen should put a lot of fear into a lot of people that have been on ERP projects in the past or any kind of project, is because not only do they create testing nightmares for us, but they also create a technical debt, like I was talking about before, that makes it difficult to upgrade. It makes it difficult to take changes. What we call that now is sustainable customizations. It really allows us to be a lot more nimble, almost to the point of personalization. And what I mean by that is that you can tailor the solution to your specific customer, not just to a specific industry. And you can do that yourself. You now become a citizen developer in many ways if you desire that, to be trained up in the Nextbot platform yourself to actually make those changes as the customer. And that's unique. A lot of other products tried to do it, but it always required a true development type mindset to go around this. Now we're hiring industry experts to build this actual product. And again, I go back to the example of Lubomir, who's on our team. He's actually a winemaker by trade, but he's actually developing this product right alongside the rest of the team. The other items here, we can go through each one of these, and I know there might be some questions on this at the end, but automated testing is included. We have an integration platform is automatically included. You don't have to worry about, if you do have a middleware tier, we can still talk to those things like Dell Boomi or SnapLogic, those kinds of items. But if you don't have a middleware tier, our product has proper API technology to allow you to talk point to point to any other piece of software out there through REST-based APIs, and that entire platform is included. The automatic updates are included, and again, going back to ultimately being future-proofed, and we'll talk again about Access Anywhere later in the deck. With that, let's talk about what NuTrax is. NuTrax ultimately started as an idea that we had around track and trace, but it quickly morphed into, and I actually liked where this analogy went, the name letters up there are transformational application extensions. And ultimately, if I were to boil it down to a single concept, is ERPs and generally products in general that are meant for broader spaces are not very good at that last mile stuff. And what I mean by last mile is the things that are very specific that you end up creating special Excel spreadsheets for, that you end up doing special tasks for, and business processes that sit outside the ERP. Then you end up having to do dual entry or other items. The idea here is to take that last mile and bring it into the actual product. And that's what NuTrax is all about. So when we look at this concept, think of other ideas. Not only could you look at this from a wine standpoint, but think of other business processes that are within even the wine industry that you have Excel spreadsheets or other items that you would like to eliminate that you wish were at an enterprise class, but never had the real capability to go just easily develop that on your own. Either we could develop for it or you could develop it. And that's the point, is this platform allows for that to occur. All right. And then if you ever do visit Colorado Springs, Colorado, I live right near here. The Manitou Incline just happens to be a mile up. So there's that reference there. So happy to join you on that climb. It's a beautiful view. I kind of hinted at this before, the NuTrax Industries. Obviously, we're talking about wine, and it's at the top of our list, but think breweries, think spirits. You're going to see some stuff today from Patrick around distillery in particular that's been developed. So we're already dabbling in these areas, but ultimately we can do crops, we can do apples, we can do anything that can be grown ultimately, and even into things that aren't grown, but rather fast moving goods, cereals, soda pop, crackers. It's fairly broad. In fact, going into pharmaceuticals or even medical devices is very possible here. So the technology that we're creating, the applications we're creating are going to be, we're going to have industry specific items, but you can quickly see how you could apply this to other places. So if you aren't in the wine industry, if you joined us today and you're not in the wine industry, there's still probably a way for us to apply the same technology to your solution, and we can talk further. So please let us know. There's a big list there to pick from. How do we bundle it? Ultimately, the reason why I want to bring this up is because a lot of people think of this as being separate from Nextworld. Ultimately, we can build this with the entire SaaS enterprise application layer at the bottom here. And the reason why I put this in this particular stack this way is because it's going to show you that we have two different methods for implementing the NuTrax product line. So Nextbot ultimately is the layer that actually Nextworld built on. But the reason why I put it on the second layer is because we built NuTrax on top of that. So if you need a financial system, if you're on QuickBooks or Xero or some of those other items and you want to get to an enterprise class ERP financial system and a procurement system, we can definitely do that with the implementation of NuTrax, along with the wine specific solutions that you're going to see today. Then on top of that, we tailor it with our NuView reporting, which is our analytics and reporting capabilities, as well as customer support and enablement projects of the integration. So you have everything wrapped into one price for the customer. So it's a one monthly fee. It's a SaaS-based pricing model. That way you can know what your costs are going forward. With that, I wanted to share the fact that there's another model here, and that is, let's say you really, you are a JD Edwards customer or you're a Microsoft customer today, and you don't have a need to replace the financials right away, or you want to do a phased approach. We can tailor for that very easily. What this does is, instead of going with the Nextworld financials right away, you can go with NuTrax sitting there as an integration into the system. So both of these models work, and we can talk to all the major vendors of ERP very easily through our point-to-point integration technology or through their integration technologies as well. All right, so everything's pre-built and ready to go. With that, I think I'm going to hand over to Patrick for the actual demo.
Good afternoon. All right, so I would just like to take you guys through the user interface, the way that everything hangs together inside the system itself, what it covers off, what we think are game changers, and how this system is probably best met for our new world and the way that we're actually doing things at the moment. The ability to be able to change your business models or anything like that to meet the requirements for people to be able to work remotely, to be able to pull up any sort of laptop, tablet, phone, and be able to do your work, because it is all web-based, right? Everything is built on pages. So along the top of here, I've set up a couple of favorites on my side. We're going to be covering off farming, blending, vessel management, inventory management, weighbridge. Like Jeff said, we've got a distiller section in here, and then I've just got a couple of calendars that I'm going to be showing you. And just starting on the page here, I just wanted to show that a page is built up by multiple cards. The cards themselves are mini applications built over a fully fledged application that sits in the background. What this means is you do not need to go through your system and have to go and hunt through your menus to be able to get to tasks. I'm not saying that you don't have that ability, because you can always click on your menu. You can see whatever's available to yourselves. We've got our NuTrax section over here, and these are all the applications that we've got sitting over here, right? You can always go that way. Another thing is the menu is fully searchable as well. So if you wanted to look at your winemaking stuff, you can just click on, writing wine, and it's going to filter based on your text. For people that enjoy shortcuts, we've fully fledged with shortcuts. I'm obviously operating on a Macintosh at the moment. It filters to that, and if you are on a PC, it shows you the exact shortcuts for that as well. So I just wanted to bring that up quickly, because it is nice and usable and quite friendly that way. On your farming page, once again, I mean, everything is built on cards, right? So in this one view, we've got the ability to look at your block details, any associated harvests against that block, what the weather is. We've built in what we call growing degree days. It's a visualization and then the actual data that sits behind that. And then if you've got your geolocation information in against that block, it will show up on this map over here. We've also got a thing called a common context. What that means is filtering by your block code, it will filter everything on this page to the relevant data that you actually want to see. What I mean by that is if we just go and type in our block code, it's going to filter in the block that we wanted to look at. It's got all the details, so all the attributes, logistical information, field attributes. It's also got all the associated harvests that we've got in against it. It's got the map and where it is. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. It's a fully fledged map. You can even go directly to Google Maps from here as well. It's got the growing degree days, and that's calculated off mins and maxes, averages out. There's calculation behind it, and it has a cumulative as well, right? This obviously for demo purposes, we've got it set so it's just running right now. But I mean, there are certain timeframes that it operates in between, and we understand that. We just wanted to say that I mean it is working and it does work for us. Our weather, so it gives us a overview of the weather and where you're at inside here. And if you flick between different blocks, everything updates for you. So once again, you get your new GDD, get your new block records, new map image, the whole lot. Now this functionality works across the board. So every single mini app, you can have a look at it. You can expand it if you want more space. You can minimize it if it's taking up too much space on your screen and you don't want to use it. You can always minimize it out of the way. But it should have all your details, all your data at your fingertips. We have set display limits. So, I mean, you can go, from 5 to 20 to whatever you need over here. 5 was just down for your actual screen size. Vessel management. Once again, you've got a standard common context. We've got a cylinder map that would update with where your barrels are. And for our vessel application, we've taken a step and we've gone, you know what, we can combine all of that inside one application. What I mean by that is it will handle tanks, virtual barrel groups, barrels, virtual tanks. So through one application, you can create new ones. You can view what you've got on hand at the moment. I mean, I can go demo, and we're just going to create a new one over here. So we can select barrel. If you select barrel, it's going to show you the information that you need to see for barrel management. If you select tank, same thing. It's going to readjust everything on screen for you. So you've got all the details, all the attributes for the vessel that you are needing to set up. It's going to keep a current usage. So it will show you your volume. It will show the intended use that's inside that, that vessel at the minute. You've got details on what the vessel material is, the shape of the vessel, your floor makeup, and what you're actually using the vessel for. We've also got additional pieces. So if you have dip charts against that tank, you select that, it's going to show you a section for that. You can enter in your dips, you can go by wet, by dry, wet and dry if you wanted. You've got a way to be able to record in feet, inches, centimeters, and volume that would be associated by that. You've also got the ability to, with the system, we've got the ability to be able to integrate out to other softwares and also PLC devices. So if you've got a digital reader that's attached to your tank, if you've got a machine, an agitator attached to your tank, you want to be able to read the readings from the digital readout. You want to be able to start and stop that pump. We've got a connection that would allow you to do that. And by selecting your automated integrations, you can select what you actually want to look at. So let's say we've got a temperature controller. It gives you the ability to connect up to that. Once you've set up your vessel, in theory B, you shouldn't have to change anything against it from then on. You select it to active. All your setup goes away and only the relevant information is left for you to be able to view from then on. Right? If you have a PLC device, if you had your digital readout, it would be associated along the bottom over here. So it will tell you, what your temperature is of the tank, or what your volume is, or if the machine is running or not. The other thing I wanted to show that we find very different is we've made it. We've got the ability to be able to connect up to any sort of weather service. It could be a weather service station, site, if you've got a subscription, and it could be one subscription, many subscriptions, depending on what you guys actually use. But we store all of that information. So against the block, if there is a location set against the block, you will be able to record in quite a large range of information actually. So we can record in sunrise and sunset dates if you've got them, day temperature, night temperature, mins, maxes, any sort of wind speed, humidity, anything that you can get, you can bring in. And the benefit of being able to record this information is based on the description and based on our calendars that we've got. We can utilize that information to actually work out, do we actually have any issues if we're doing, for argument's sake, a harvest scheduler? Do we have issues with anything? And what we've got over here is on these days against these blocks, it's said that there's actually rain happening. So on the 6th of April, against block PB020, there's a chance of rain. So it's just asking you, do you actually want to actually reschedule this actually? So it's working out on the fly what's happening out inside your locations, and it's going to inform you, is this a good idea, is it a bad idea? We've also got the ability, as you know, utilizing the weather information. We create our growing degree days from that. So I was talking earlier on about a calculation that would happen. So it's going to have your growing degree days, and it works it out on a cumulative as well. So it's just going to give you a range and then work out when your crop's actually going to be ready or not. Moving on into the blending section. So the first thing that we've got here is we've built out a trial blend application. Now, we can do that by specific specifications, or we can do it just by an item that you're actually creating. And I've just quickly knocked up a quick demo over here. So we're going into a specific tank, We're going to be creating a Pinot Noir. We want to create 1,500 liters of that. It works out the standard cost there. If you were to use specifications, you could bring those in, and it's going to calculate based on these specifications what you need to add to be able to get your your actual results, what you actually need to create that blend. If you don't use those specifications, you don't need to worry about those additives. You've got the tanks that would be associated to make those blends. So I've got a Shiraz and I've got another Pinot Noir. And we just specify, you know what, I want to use, to make that 1,500 liters, I want to use 90% of the Shiraz, I want to use 10% of the Pinot. You could also go, you know what, I actually just want to use 85% and you want to go 15% over here. It readjusts the required volume automatically for you. You don't need to worry about that at all. If you are from a Canada region and you want to be able to use linearization, you've got the ability to do that as well if it's required. So we just want to say that, I mean, we are catering for a plethora of requirements, and it's something that we can always adjust as we go forwards based on your needs. Moving on into the actual operations app itself, I'm just going to show you a quick grower app. So once again, our way that we've tried to develop this application is it only displays your required screens. So whatever's required for your operation, it's going to show. In this grow section, it's obviously required that you actually see block information. So we're doing a spray operation. We're doing it over a 20-acre section. We're using the spray. It automatically works out based on your treated area, how much of the spray that you are going to need, this insecticide. If, for argument's sake, we change this and we want to go to 50, once again, it automatically adjusts what you need to use. So it's working out on the fly what needs to happen every single time. Moving over into the blend side, I'm going to show you a quality test. So as you can see, because it's quality driven, we don't need to worry about anything to do with block information. So we're going to do a test on a tank. Let's just do a bricks test over here. So bricks test, and we're going to go, you know what, we're going to start off and work out, we're going to use 17%, and that's a pass. If we had gone 16, it's going to fail. If we're going to go, I don't know, 24, we've got to pass. So once again, based on your specifications against your tests, it works out automatically if it's going to pass or fail, and it's going to be quite descriptive as on your screen right away as it goes through. Moving on from here, the backbone of any system is obviously we want to be able to record lot information, exactly what is happening every time we do an operation. And we just wanted to make sure that throughout the system, as operations are recorded, it's recording your lot number, it's keeping both your before and after lot information, when it was done, who did the operation, if it was against a block, if it was against a vessel. It's recording, so your cumulative additives and your amounts against it. We've got attributes, what is it made up of, any sort of composition information, any sort of associated costs, styles, and quality, and what the results were based on. Moving on from here, as Jeff said earlier on, we are catering for any sort of agricultural type of business and any sort of CPG spaces. But just to name a few, I mean, we've got grapes, we've got avos, we've got grain contracts, any sort of broccoli, apples, and the contract is, I mean, it's based off your start and your finish dates and times. It's got any sort of renewable information against it. What harvest record are you basing this on? And you can also work out just general information, what you've got against that block. If you've got any sort of contract minimum and maximums, we're going to be able to allow or disallow over receipts if you wanted. and then you can build out your pricing based on what you need. So, and it's a 1/1 price. So you've got your base price, and then you've got your is it based off quality? Is it based off amounts? Is it based off any source of staging or freighting costs? We've got all of that, and there is no limit to the amount that you can build out. That's going to allow anything to come through over there. We've got winemaking calculations. So once again, just making sure that we've got everything built into the system itself, not having to go outside and look at any different websites, and you don't have to go and find a textbook to show what the calculation would be. You've got everything built in over here. So I mean, we've got this one over here. We can say 1,000 starting TA. Let's just go on 7.1. You want to raise it up to 7.5. It does. Okay. Sorry, it's working in the background over here. It will work out the exact amount that you need to do, and you can change. Oops, that just overrode 7.1, and we want to raise it to 7.5. Apologies for the delay there. So it's going to give you the exact amount that you have to add. And if you're not happy with the grams amount, you can change that to pounds. You can change that to tons. Well, you wouldn't go tons actually. Milligrams. So once again, everything on a screen is there for purpose. And if there's an adjustment, if there's a calculation that needs to happen, it does that automatically for you. Back to our harvest scheduler. The nice thing about this is the calendar. It is a, you can have it by month, by week, by day. You've got your calendars. Now, the way that this is built out is I've just got it set. So we've got 2 different harvesters that we could utilize. You've got an operation, and it's a harvesting operation. I'm just going to create a very quick one over here, and we're going to go, it's the demo test, and we're going to do it against a pistachio block, and we're going to go, I don't know, it's 10 acres over there, and we can start that from, we'll do that on the 8th at 11 a.m. and we will finish this at 12. We're going to go against our harvester number 2. So let's just go harvester 2 over there, and let's just say, that's going to be 30 minutes worth of use. Can save that. Now, what we should find is with the system going through, it's going to go and create that operation for you. All right, so we should be able to find on the 7th, or sorry, the 8th. So we've got our record that's automatically created for you. If you click into it, it tells you what operation was created from as well. It's got the time frame that you needed. It's and it's against the correct harvester as well. So you notice that it's in purple, which is against harvester number 2. If you wanted to change time, you could come through and let's just move the time. So let's move that to 1 p.m. and we can take that to 3 p.m. Now, the one thing I do need to apologize, I'm in a different time zone, so I haven't set my time zone changing, so times are showing up slightly different, but that's the reason. So there you go. You notice that it is moved by a couple of hours, and it's also it's no longer an hour, it's now 2 hours. The other thing, so inventory, what we wanted to show is we've got a couple of different visualizations that we can show. This one's just basically showing that we've got fill rates and if a tank is open. So you can see tank 15, it's got a capacity of 100,000 liters and we've got nothing inside there at the minute. We also want to be able to show that at any given stage, you can see what your additives or your ingredients are, what your on-hand stock is, what type it is, and what location it's assigned to. So just bringing that through, and we've got a weighbridge application. So through here, standard weighbridge information, which meets all Californian and Washington-based regulations where certifications need to be held against the weighbridge itself. We've got a place so that we can store any sort of certification attachments, so it will be fully, you'll be able to record all of your certifications against that. You enter in your harvest record, what your weighing amounts is, are. If you've got any sort of bins that you want to have attached to it, so if you've got any container types, weigh outs, any sort of carrier information that you need to have. And we've also got the addition here that we can, if your weighbridge header unit is network capable, we will be able to link up to that, and it will be able to bring your weight across into the weighbridge application automatically for you. Once again, I mean, it's going to store the information, and so you'll be able to see if there's any historic information that you wanted, handpicks, what your weights were. You'll be able to print those out. You'll have all your standard weighbridge certificates or crusher information that will be printed out for internal and external use. And then just to end off, we have just been started working on a master distiller application. So once again, it will record what you're creating, what your standard gravity is, your specific gravity, batch size that you're creating. You can name your internal lot name, so you can name that whatever you would like. It assigns a automatic number against that, so almost like an operation number, what your fermentation tank is, and how much you are creating. And then from there, we will be creating the additional pieces that need to go against this. And apologies. So, sorry, I do apologize. The other thing that we wanted to make sure is whenever you are creating any sort of information, and if it needs to create records for you automatically, you don't need to go through and create additional records for it. It will create the base functionality for you. And from there, you update the information that would flow on year to year. So what I mean by that is your block record would be your master data. Theoretically, you wouldn't change anything about that. So you would create the information, you would create your longitude and latitude information, any sort of aerial information, your attributes and all of that. And then, as you can see down at the bottom over here, the harvest records haven't been created for this yet. You can click on generate harvest. It will do that automatically for you based on your harvest schedule that we've got set up. So your harvest calendar, and if you've got 10 years worth of information inside the system, it will create all 10 years for you. And it takes the current date as your current point. So as you can see, the 2021 is there as your starting point, and it's going out to 2025, even though inside our like schedule calendar, it starts from 2020. It recognizes the current date, so it's not creating information just for the sake of creating information. It's got a little bit of logic behind that. And that is everything on my side. Jeff?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, real quick, could you show the other thing that we're going to highlight here is that everything is mobile enabled. And Patrick, I don't know if you have an app that would be best to show here, but we have you can simulate the mobility here. But the point being is that we've designed our applications to, in some cases, we know that you're going to be in the field and you need to do a certain task really well. So that's the other aspect of a lot of this, is just know that there's not a separate application that's required to get to the mobile side of this. It is mobile enabled out of the gate. So there you go. Yeah, I think there's if you rotate view on the iPad, right?
Yep.
I could see that being critical for a lot of businesses where you do have field operations going through. We'll also cover off a few other things in the next few slides here. We can't show everything in this webinar. There's a ton of stuff, and I will recommend that you schedule an actual full demo where we can take you through it all. We do QR code scanning. We do a lot of other things that Patrick just didn't have time to go into on this particular webinar. But please schedule a deeper dive demo with us if you are interested. So. With that, let me go ahead and I'll take back over the screen here. Make sure everybody sees that real quick. Are we good?
Yeah, you're good to go, Jeff.
All righty. Well, what I wanted to cover off at the end here to kind of, and get to the Q&A as well is giving you guys an idea of, why did we go design this thing? What was the purpose? And the team as a whole actually has, I think we're added up probably about 50 years plus of just winery experience, likely more as part of our extended family as well. The point being is that these are just some of the many wineries we've dealt with over the years, going back about 20, 21 years now, and in fact further, I believe. But to give you an idea, all the way through. And so we've worked with some of the larger customers. Lubomir, who's on our team, and Lucan are all connected in some way to the wine industry. So we live and breathe this. And this is just the wine side of it, right? We are, as Patrick showed you, distillery, brewery. We're looking at also orchards or other grain type companies as well. So anything that you can grow. And we'll talk about a little bit of the more specifics around that briefly. So with that, also wanted to show you guys our general roadmap and where we are today. Actually, that now is not correct, so I want to put that more out to the April timeframe. We are in our spirits release, which is coming out here very shortly, in the major release for our Nextworld product line as well. But we're ready to start implementing with any customer today, and I wanted that to be really clear, that it's not just a product that you'd have to, we could start and ultimately have you live very quickly, especially if it's just the NuTrax module that you need. And as you can see, we can rapidly change things. And I wanted to highlight that a lot of what Patrick shows, we can actually customize very rapidly and quickly to your guys' needs. If you need another field added to a certain screen and you need to be able to store that data, it doesn't take a full developer to go do that. It's really a matter of saying, hey, we need that field in there. You use the Nextbot platform to go add the field. The table automatically gets updated. And there's a lot of rapid development we can do to make sure that the implementation is exactly what's tailored to your needs. We highlighted a little bit of the disconnected. I think this is an important topic to make sure we cover yet again, but the disconnected, there's what we'd call probably fully disconnected, and then there's partial. Just note that out of the box, partial disconnected is already supported by the stateless architecture. And what I mean by stateless, because it's a term that's probably a little more technical than some, is that the transactions that you're recording from your device, whether it be your iPad or your desktop or your phone, are being recorded in multiple locations at the same time. So if you were to lose connectivity, let's say you lost Wi-Fi connection and it had to switch over to 5G, or even if you lost 5G connection and you were in the middle of a transaction, you're not going to lose that transaction. unlike other products. It actually is maintained in the system through a product that's actually developed underneath the covers called Nate, and it's their auditing tool as well. But Nate is the transaction capability that allows us to actually store the transactions in multiple places, truly creating a stateless architecture. And I can't emphasize enough how important that is, because no other ERP that we're aware of anyhow has that truly in place, which means the other advantage that you get there is, let's say you have a transaction that's partially completed. And this happens all the time. You get started on something and you either get distracted, you get a phone call, the end user has to go do something else as a priority real quickly, and they end up having to start over from the very beginning of that transaction. With the architecture in place at Nextworld, what it allows us to do is actually store that transaction even as a partial. It's a pending transaction. We actually have a really good demo that we're going to be putting out in a video on that particular item here shortly. But I think it's a very powerful thing that's underrated in a lot of ways, because how many times do you start something, you know, oh, I don't have time to finish this right now. You end up abandoning that transaction. You don't have to do that any longer. So that's very critical. The other thing is our native capabilities. With the QR code capability, you can scan, for instance, in the cellar and bring up that tank information. Patrick had kind of mentioned that we can automatically talk to devices that are out in the field through the PC, any kind of device, whether it be tank metering or tank monitoring, like you know, the temperature checks, things like that, turning on and off certain devices. That's all capable through our API layer. With that said, we also partner with DSI on their capabilities, which gives us full disconnected. And while this is a diminishing problem in the marketplace, because we usually have some kind of connection, there is occasional use cases where you need to be able to do something and you're not going to be connected to the SaaS software, and you're not even being connected to a server at all. You need it to be on your phone or on that device, and then you need to upload that information later. And we do have that capability if that comes about. So just know that that passive and active disconnected that you see on the screen, that's what we're talking about there. And we can go into deeper detail if anybody has questions on that. Our integration platform, as well as our partnership community, is quite broad already. Ultimately, we go through the Nextbot platform. I tried to make this not very technical here, but ultimately the REST-based APIs allow us to talk to the major vendors from an e-commerce, industry, and regulatory compliance standpoint, as well as, and Patrick mentioned this earlier, around our PLC devices, from tank.net to, you know, Paul, all of these items, right? And then also from the ship compliant, Avalara being your tax. But I wanted to highlight at the very top the e-commerce solutions. We're partnering with Commerce 7 out of the US and with Wine out of the Australia, New Zealand regions for e-commerce. But that doesn't mean that you have to go with those. We can actually integrate with any of the major vendors when it comes to e-commerce solutions. And that comes with, you know, your tasting room capabilities. All those other elements are usually included in some of those better solutions in the marketplace. All righty. Lastly, you know, I put planned at the top of the screen. Ultimately, everybody talks about blockchain, but it's very rare to actually see it implemented. So one of our goals with NuTrax is to have full track and trace capability. And a lot of times that means that you have to be part of a bigger system. It's not going to all be within the NuTrax product line. The data will come in, and how you trace that product back requires you to be integrated with a certain blockchain technology. So we are talking with partners around Vincent, which is out of Israel, a leader in the blockchain technology for wineries, as well as Grain Chain, a leader in the general grain and grower community, and partnering with them on the blockchain technologies that they've already developed. So we would become part of their block and be able to update that blockchain. And so that is coming, and something that I hope excites some of you that are really looking to be able to authenticate and do the things that blockchain allows us to do, to really do. And I'm going to use one of Patrick's better analogies here, right? Is that we get to tell you the water that, you know, was irrigating those grapes, right? When you look at those, that detail that goes all the way back to the actual growing phase of the grapes themselves, and that's our goal. With that said, I wanted to finish up here and get the Q&A. We talked about early on, how do I future-proof? Ultimately, the no-code platform, and allows you as a customer to not only take advantage of a great wine solution, possibly a full-blown ERP suite, if you'd like to actually go after that as well, and create your own applications, or have us create applications for you on the Nextbot platform. So if you are dealing with a lot of Excel spreadsheets and manual processes, ultimately we want to be able to future-proof you with the best platform available. So this comes with the software. It's not a separate purchase. You do get the no-code platform with it. The stateless disconnected mobile capabilities on the second line, I talked about this just a few slides back. This is unique and a big differentiator. There are very few products in the marketplace that really truly allow you to store your data after you've either disconnected or if you just simply abandon that transaction and want to come back to it. That capability is built into the product line. So for up to 7 days, I didn't mention that earlier, but it actually stores those pending transactions for up to 7 days. And then ultimately, how do you minimize your software integration costs? Well, because you have a full-blown integration suite that's built in, the API layers that are built into this product, it allows you to potentially eliminate middleware tiers that may or may not be as beneficial now. Now, I won't say that it was going to replace all of the middleware tier applications out there, but if you haven't needed a middleware tier before, you don't need one for our product either. So it really depends on each customer on whether or not they need something like a Dell Boomi or other products. But most customers that we found are looking to find a way to eliminate those costs. And this is one way. We have a full point-to-point integration technology built into the platform. So with that, I wanted to finish up with ultimately getting to question and answer, but schedule a live demo with us. You can do that through our website, put an interest out there, or you can contact us directly. Happy to schedule a more personalized demo for a couple hours or even longer if that's required to really go deeper than what we can do in the webinar. Ultimately, if you are interested in getting started and not necessarily with NuTrax, I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of our New Verge promise, the KISS promise. And ultimately, it's bring us a problem. We have a few examples out there of customers that have these really advanced Excel spreadsheets, but they're not easily maintained. They end up having to be done by somebody that, may have left the company, right? And they're having to worry about how do they maintain that going forward. And there's a lot of great solutions that have been developed, but they're not enterprise class. And ultimately allow the Nextbot platform to help automate. Patrick actually mentioned something earlier in the demo I wanted to really highlight, and that was that he said that things would happen automatically. And it's not about AI, it's about intelligent automation. So what we're looking at is intelligent automation to do steps that ultimately allow, like for instance, when he created those harvest records, instead of having to create each one individually, it automatically created those harvest records. The other things that occur behind the background, in the background that normally would require a manual process, we're trying to automate those. So think of intelligent automation that allows you to do your job easier, and we can start automating those processes for you today. So if that's how you'd like to get your foot in the door with us, we'd be happy to do that and have 8 weeks to solution as our promise. With that said, we already have a bunch of webinars out there. The big one is the New Verge intro webinar. There's a link there, but go up to our website. We will have some upcoming webinars announced on the website as well, so please follow the website for new items coming out. And with that, I will turn it over to Q&A.
Thanks, Jeff. We do have about 6 minutes left for questions. Just a heads up to, for all the participants, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you all, so you can certainly verbally ask a question if you want to. But I was going to at least allow you to do that. However, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So Jeff, I'm going to start with you on this first one. Does NuTrax for Wine have tasting room functionality, and/or do you integrate with any other CRM tools that have that functionality?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have chosen, tasting room is a very specific item that we've chosen to go with our partner community. So for instance, Commerce7, with Wine, all those would have your tasting room capabilities, and they're built in for that. And that's more customer driven. And we feel that that UI and that experience is going to be better through the e-commerce solution. So while we do consider that we could build out an e-commerce solution, we really wanted to do what we did best. So we're partnering in that space. Hope that answers the question.
I assume so. We'll find out if I get any more questions in just a second. Another question is, can you give some examples on where you would fit the New Verge promise? I guess I'm kind of rephrasing what they said, but I think they're after give some examples on a good fits for the New Verge promise.
Yeah, I would say there's obviously everybody deals with a lot of Excel spreadsheets. So some of the great examples that I've had from other industries, and you can take these and apply them possibly to other use cases, because while we're talking to the wine industry right now, a lot of times you have other business processes that you have these complicated Excel spreadsheets. So I'll go to an example we got recently, and that was around bid management. It was an Excel spreadsheet that had a lot of macros. and had its own database even at one point, right? So it was talking to a database and it was pulling data in, and it had a lot of computational things going on. And while Excel is really good at that, and I'm not trying to say that Excel isn't good at it, in fact, it's one of the best tools, it's not enterprise class in regards to being able to share that as easily, right? While there's ability to have people in the same Excel files now with Office 365, truly enterprise class applications require that platform behind it. So great examples would be things that are the more complex Excel spreadsheets. I don't think it's going to be worth the time to replace simple Excel spreadsheets. But if you have something that you feel should be in the cloud and should be more of a shared resource, those are great examples where we could automate those and make those an enterprise class app instead of sitting on a SharePoint folder location somewhere where you end up possibly having to maintain it or lose that IP over time, right? We'll create it as an app. So that's, hopefully that answers that question as well, but that's a great example of it.
Okay, thanks. Another question, Lubomir, this is for you. Lubomir, it was mentioned you're still a winemaker. How do you see the software working for real life winemakers?
Yes, thank you, Bill. That's an interesting question, definitely. And having personally worked and implemented a number of other winery management solutions from AS400 to JD Edwards Blend and Grower, I have to say that NuTrax for wine, it's a superior solution that's now available for the industry, and it's covering a complete spectrum of functionality required to run either your viticulture side of the business, your winemaking and cellar operations, your bottling operations, your inventory control, and we didn't had really the time to cover everything that we can do when it comes to inventory control and management, for example. At the same time, quality and cost, and be able to integrate so easy with some of the existing systems that you might have, examples that you've seen throughout the webinar. Now, when that's combined with the ability to add your own custom functionality, as Jeff and Patrick were mentioning a little bit earlier, and you can do it through us very fast, or you can do it yourself as an end user, it's really a true unique offering that no other system can do out there.
Thanks. Got one more question and probably 2 more minutes, so we might be right on time. I'm not sure who can answer this one, maybe you, Jeff, but how long does it typically take to implement NuTrax for wine?
That's a great question. I think I'm going to throw a little bit to Patrick here, but I'm going to start with the answer that we always start with. It really depends on how much data you want to bring forward. So the largest part of a implementation project is dealing with historical information. So depending on that piece of it, and if you're willing to do that as a second phase, the implementation could be in months, right? And what I mean by months is before even the next harvest season, so which is coming up in North America. So we could easily implement NuTrax by itself very quickly. Now, if you added into it the financials or procurement, manufacturing, distribution modules as well from Nextworld, that project does extend out to probably more of a 6 to 9 month project, but we can actually compress a lot of that depending on the level of personalization and customization that you need. But I'm going to let Patrick add on to that because I know there's a lot of nuance when it comes to how fast things can be implemented.
Patrick, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. You've answered very well. I mean, a couple of months is definitely the time frame we are looking forward to be able to get our NuTrax side going. And it all depends on how much data you're actually coming across. I mean, it's how quick you want to be able to cleanse your data and what information you want to come across. Most people do just do what product you've got currently sitting inside your tanks and you bring that across. So 2 months should be plenty of time to be able to bring that through. And then like Jeff was saying, if you are looking at doing the wider ERP suite, it would take longer. But it's rapid, it's very quick. And with the ability to, like Luma said, where you can customize or change any sort of information you want to come through as well, and applications, it's using your business to be able to create additional information for you as well, right? So we give you the tools, step away, and then you guys can essentially fish for yourselves. I mean, you
That's
carry on.
That's a very valid point because nobody knows your business better than yourself.
Exactly.
And that's where we can customize to your needs.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, guys. Jeff, before I close out, is there anything else you want to cover?
Just the fact that, one of the biggest things that comes to implementation is training your end user. So one of the things that we're doing inside that we didn't get a chance to show is built-in training modules. So each of these applications comes with the help that's required for the end users, because we realize not everybody's paying attention during training. And sometimes you just need a refresher. So having that capability right in line allows users to really adopt this quickly. And so the UI will lean itself towards this makes sense, right? We've developed the screens to be very user-friendly, but at the same time, we realize sometimes you just need a little bit of help along the way. So that's all being included inside the product.
Okay, great. So let me go ahead and bite close. It's 5:01, so I apologize for everybody. I stole an extra minute from you all, but we do appreciate you being here this evening, and don't forget to monitor our website for some upcoming webinars. We are going to have a couple. I think Jeff mentioned one. Another one is we're going to actually develop an application real time during the webinar. So we'll try and get some advertisements out or emails out to everybody about that. But if you can monitor the website, that'd be great. And again, thanks for joining us today, and have a great evening.